Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. My name is Kristen Gallerno. I'm the Curator of Communication and Information Technology here at the Henry Ford. That means a lot of things, but specifically, I'm responsible for the history of broadcast and sound reproduction, computers, things like that. So I always think Maker Faire is really great because it offers a lot of collisions of things. So you can see things like 3D printers next to the collection of the world's oldest steam engines. And then you can see things like the Mothership out in the plaza. And, this place was founded by Thomas Edison, and Henry Ford as buddies. And Edison being, one of the fathers of sound reproduction. So the Mothership, I like to think of it as a signal and a beacon in the landscape of Detroit. And it really draws together a lot of creative communities. And communities is really a key word there. If any of you were here yesterday, you would have seen crowds of people just, gathered around the Mothership watching all the amazing programming that was going on. So with that, I'm just going to leave it off. I just want to say I'm so happy. I can't, you guys are probably sick of me saying this, but I'm so happy you're here. And it's amazing that the Mothership is literally landed in the heart of the Henry Ford in the Museum Plaza. And I hope this isn't the last time that this happens. So please join me in welcoming the 1 Mile Project.
Peace, everyone. I am Bryce Detroit, music and culture curator for the 1 Mile Project. I'm going to allow my teammates to introduce themselves.
Good afternoon. My name is Halima Cassels, and I'm the visual arts co-curator for 1 Mile Project.
And my name is Jean-Louis Farge, and I'm one of the designers of the project and the Mothership.
Okay, so the 1 Mile Project, 1 stands for Oakland North End. So this project, over a year ago, set out to reactivate 1 linear mile of Oakland Avenue, which is a historic artery in the North End community, reactivated by collaborating with community members to restabilize structures, and then activate these structures with experimental, innovative, just super avant-garde programming. Period. Like that was really like the nutshell of this whole project is to bring community members together, uplifting their skill sets, uplifting all of the talent that already exists in our community to create an image of what this linear mile can look like. We have, over that time, focused our attention on looking from like 4 primary categories. 1 being music and culture, 1 being visual arts, design, which has a architectural design as it relates to structures, as well as landscape design, landscape architecture, and then new economy, which is an overarching framework as well as a specific initiative as well that Halima can speak more on. So one of the things that we set out to do first with this project, which at its spiritual core, the spirit of this project is uplifting the rich cultural history and musical legacy of the North End community, of Oakland Avenue in particular. Why? Why is because we have a community, and in our community, as artists, as storytellers, as historians, as architects, we come to the table with this huge value for cultural context, historical context. So to know that we reside and we exist in a community that is steeped in musical legacy, like having top-tier venues on Oakland Avenue, like the Apex Bar. Oh, that's my 5 minutes. But bottom line, knowing that we have this value for historical context, cultural context, we can see the richness, which is the stories and the legacy of our community. Also being clear that based on the way that the average member of our community just operates within the space, it feels like there's a disconnect with the history, with the legacy. It feels like so bottom line, we can appreciate circumstances that exist outside of us, like mainstream narratives that paint blacks, browns, African-descended people, in Detroit in particular. They paint them in particular ways that could show them in lights of no value, that could show them with no historical context to the land and space that they occupy. So us knowing that there's this rich value, wanting to provide access to these stories so that we can, one, be in contact with the legacy and the energy that is in our cultural DNA in that kind of way, and two, begin to reorient our own identities from a point of value, being able to have value in artistic and creative skill sets that exist in our communities right now, but not necessarily having a industrial outlet or a job-based outlet for these skill sets. So connecting with these points of identity so that we can reimagine our community collectively from value-based points of self, period.
All right. Again, my name is Halima, and welcome everybody who's here. Thanks for being here. I'm visual arts co-curator as well as New Economy, so I'll talk a little bit about both. From the visual arts side, we have a few different programs, and what we want to do, as Bryce said, is uplift the legacy as well as uplift the people that are there, the people that are creating, the people that are living, the people that are making things. How do we showcase that? So the zine, which we have outside the Mothership, is part documentation as well as part visual arts as well as part New Economy, because all of the ads in there are hyper-local to this 1 linear mile space. We have a series of workshops as well as a 1 mile fellowship, which we re-granted artistic freedom funds to 3 artists in the neighborhood, who then had shows, exhibitions, as well as others at our bureau, which is kind of our headquarters, a space that was reimagined and invigorated as part of this project. So the visual arts piece also spills over into other initiatives. The 1 Mile Project is like very organic, very multi-pronged, and when people in the community say, hey, I'm interested in this, or I do this, and it's kind of like, okay, well, how can you be included in this overarching narrative of what's going on in the community, and how do we highlight that, showcase that, and share skills? How do you get to learn something from somebody else in the community and connect on those levels? And the skill sharing as well as the swapping. So now I'm going to kind of change hats. The New Economy portion of it is inclusive of different modes of how do we interact with each other, how do we meet our needs. So we have something called the free market, which is a swap. But it's more than a swap, it's a musical experience and items exchange. So we all have like stuff, like everybody has so much stuff, and our stuff has stories. And then when people start to be able to get rid of stuff, make space in their own homes, but then share stories with others and build connections more than the actual physical object, that's also a part of like our programming, meeting needs, helping people to be givers and receivers, and like give life to the things that we use on a daily basis. And again, also it's kind of like an and both situation where we're moving stuff around for free, but then we're also trying to highlight businesses and people that are makers and artists in the neighborhood. So how do we figure out ways of cross-promoting each other, supporting each other's work, and getting it to a wider audience? So that's kind of a nutshell of what I work on with the project. And yeah, again, thanks.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jean-Louis Farge. I'm not from Detroit. Like, maybe you have seen that, but And I'm a designer, and I work on the representation. And I live in Michigan for the last 6 years, and for the 3-4 years, I didn't know how to work and connect with the city of Detroit. Because when you drive, when you see the city, when you are from Europe, you are very surprised what's happening in the city, and you don't know how to do it. As a designer, what you can do. So the first idea for us was how to change the representation of the city. Like, as a designer and as I'm also a photographer, I've seen ruin porn everywhere about Detroit. People are using the city as a background to make money, to be a business. And our goal was how we can connect with residents who are interested to change the representation. And we have this amazing opportunity to meet Bryce, Halima, and some residents of the North End who tell us the story about the music history of this neighborhood. And we start this collaboration, and we feel like what is going to be the most important part of the project are going to be the icon who represent the new vision of the culture of this neighborhood. So we start to design and work with a group, and we figure out that probably what the most important part of this neighborhood has been George Clinton and the Mothership. He started in this neighborhood, and George Clinton changed the music everywhere in the world, like from the 70s up to now. So we decided to work with some of the musicians of the band and to redesign a Mothership. It would be forward the people of the neighborhood. And this is, it was a very long process. It's not easy to go behind George Clinton and redesign a Mothership, but it was a very, very important and very interesting learning process for us. And we came up with this idea of Afrofuturist. We didn't come up, actually. We work with Bryce Halima, and they told me, and they told us, we need to bring that. You need to do that, because we have very European, I have a very European culture of design, and it was very, very challenging for me and for us to understand what does it mean? Like, what does it mean Afrotopia? What does it mean Afrofuturist? What is it? So we start to integrate it, a culture that I didn't know, and it become slowly obvious that that's the object of desire, and that's the best representation we can have for the neighborhood. And this is how the Mothership started, and this is what is it. Yeah. Yeah, good. Okay. Okay, very good.
Out here in this museum? Yes, Kristen, you want to?
It's right in the museum plaza, if you know where the cornerstone is when you first walk in, or where the big DC-3 airplane is. It's right in between those two things, basically.
Okay, I came in another entrance.
Okay, so if you head this way and then take it up this way, you're gonna find it. So
Thank you.
Great. Yes, sir.
What inspired your design for the Mothership? Is this from P-Funk or Mojo?
So definitely we uplift the funk legacy of the North End, and then from there, in deeper conversations, looking at the funk aesthetic, then we can appreciate the ancient African, or what some people now with a contemporary label say is Afrofuturistic aesthetic inspirations of that. So in that way, we were just like tapping back into our own culture, our own legacy, and bringing forth that aesthetic, which was most recently expressed through a Clinton, you know what I mean, or through like the work that Mojo, the funk that Mojo uplifted, Earth, Wind, and Fires, and things like that.
I want to add to that. So the process that we used to determine what we would do as a cultural marker was a community-based meeting process. And we have a lot of artists in the neighborhood, and we also represent, personally, Oakland Avenue Artists Coalition. So having several roundtable discussions with lots of people at the table saying, well, you know, what is a symbol for our neighborhood? What is that, you know, why? And kind of co-ideating this idea of a mothership, and then like how powerful the musical history is, was also something that I wanted to just speak on, because it wasn't just like, you know, the 3 or 4 of us. It was like a much larger process.
You want to speak on that too, John Lee?
Yeah, I mean, the Mothership works pretty well because today we are at the Ford Museum, and it's a tool of broadcast, and we have a microphone, and we can describe some feeling from the city and from some neighborhood. And so for us, is the tool and the broadcast tool of the design is working very well. And it's a project is published now in Europe, it's published in a little bit everywhere in the world, and in this context we can describe what is the culture and what is the politic feeling of some part of the city, and this is a different voice, and this is a broadcast tool, and it works very well.
Thank you. Do you have a website where people can find out more?
It's onemile.us.
.us?
.us.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.